Smoldering rubble, piles of concrete and twisted metal. The aftermath of a Russian missile strike in Kharkiv. Scores dead and injured. Ukraine calls it one of the worst attacks on civilians in months. And day two of a strike by tens of thousands of healthcare workers, the largest in U.S. history, on the heels of walkouts by workers in other sectors. And later, the countdown is on for the men's basketball final at the Asian Games. Excitement, anticipation as the two remaining teams reach for the gold.
Live from Washington, this is The World Today.
Hello, everyone, and thanks for joining us. I'm Asiye Namdar in Washington. We begin with what Ukraine calls one of the deadliest Russian attacks since the early weeks of the conflict. More than 51 people are dead, including a 6-year-old boy. The strike targeted a small village in the Kharkiv region. Ukraine says it was a deliberate act of terrorism. No immediate comment from Russia, but in the past it has denied hitting civilian targets. The assault comes a day after Ukraine's cross-border drone attack on Russia. Megumi Lim is in Kyiv.
This is the deadliest attack on the Kharkiv region since the Russia-Ukraine conflict began, with one of the highest civilian death tolls. The missile struck a cafe and a shop in Hroza, a village of only a few hundred people in the Kupiansk area of the Kharkiv region, which was occupied by Russian forces for several months last year. Around 60 people were reportedly gathering in the cafe to remember a local resident who had recently died. Images circulating on social media showed bodies strewn on the ground and buildings reduced to rubble. A regional official said initial information suggests an Iskander ballistic missile was used. Meanwhile, President Vladimir Putin has reiterated his claim that Russia didn't start the conflict in Ukraine. And he insisted that he wasn't interested in conquering territories, although Russia annexed 4 regions of Ukraine last year. Giving a speech in the Black Sea city of Sochi, President Putin said that Russia is aiming to create a new world and accused the West of trying to hold on to global hegemony. He also rejected criticism that Russia had failed to intervene in Nagorno-Karabakh, saying Azerbaijan's takeover of the region was inevitable. Megumi Lim, CGTN, Kyiv.
And a deadly drone strike in Syria hit a military academy during a graduation ceremony. At least 100 people were killed. And a warning, some of the images you're about to see are hard to watch. It happened in the western city of Homs. Women and children among the victims. Dozens more were wounded. So far, no claim of responsibility, but Syria's defense ministry blamed the attack on terrorists without naming a particular group. Thursday's attack was one of the deadliest on the Syrian army since the start of the country's civil war. In Japan, a second batch of treated radioactive wastewater was released from the destroyed Fukushima nuclear power plant. Japan says nothing unusual has been detected in seawater or fish samples. But critics of the release, including China, aren't really buying it. Terence Terashima has more.
The Tokyo Electric Company, the operator of the crippled Fukushima Daiichi nuclear power plant, began releasing treated contaminated water for the second time this year. 7,800 tons of nuclear wastewater will be released into the Pacific Ocean over the next 17 days, after being diluted by 740 times using seawater. The Tokyo Electric Company plans to discharge more than 31,000 tons of treated wastewater in 4 rounds by the end of March 2024. The Fukushima plant operator said the water samples collected from the ocean to date were found to be within safe limits, but there are continued concerns over potential environmental risks. There were mixed opinions among tourists visiting Japan on the issue.
That's not a good idea, I think. So maybe have some other solutions. It would be better.
I love seafood, and Japanese. You have sashimi, sushi. It's everywhere. Seafood is a staple within the culture of Japan. So for those visiting, especially if you don't know about that information, that all this waste is being dumped into the water, and you're coming consuming all this food. Say you just love seafood, and you're just consuming seafood day after day in and day out. Of course, you're going to get sick.
Some became more cautious about consuming seafood after Japan began releasing treated contaminated wastewater in late August.
Last time come here, we eat a lot of sushi, fish, everything. We like it very much. But this time with child, I think maybe not.
Others say they put their trust in what experts say.
Frankly, fish not good, but many scientists said that it is okay when time is gone. So I'm not. I may not feel good, but scientists say okay. So maybe it doesn't matter to my future or my son.
Meanwhile, Japan is striving to restore its inbound tourism to pre-COVID levels. The Japanese government is making efforts to promote the safety of its food, even amid the controversy surrounding the wastewater discharge issue. Terence Terashima, CGTN, Tokyo.
Now to that massive healthcare strike across the U.S., tens of thousands of workers at one of the largest healthcare providers walked out over wages and staffing disputes. The majority of strikers are in California, where the company is based, and patients are being warned about potential delays. Eris Tianshan with more from Los Angeles.
Shame on Kaiser! Shame on Kaiser!
Licensed vocational nurses, home health aides, as well as technicians. More than 75,000 unionized healthcare workers have walked out of their jobs at Kaiser Permanente, one of the prominent healthcare providers across the United States.
This state is very expensive. I love where I'm from. I love my community. I love to be a part of this community. However, the going rate of a one-bedroom is $2,200. That is ridiculous, okay? We all commute. We can't live right here in West LA.
Strikers say the proposed pay raise of 6% is just to keep up with inflation. But it's also about working conditions and the number of patients they're being asked to care for.
You know, there's a burnout that happens. You can only do that for so many days, have these crazy busy days where you're just nonstop going, you know, trying to use the restroom and get all your water in and still keep up with patients. And the other thing is that the patients don't get the care that they need, you know.
The strikes come at a time when many healthcare workers were burdened with the COVID-19 pandemic while facing the pressure of rising costs of living. And they're not alone. 2023 has been defined by union actions with major strikes staged by various sectors. School workers, teachers, nurses, hotel workers, fast food workers, port workers, auto workers, Hollywood actors, and writers are just some of the unions that called on their members to hold the picket lines to negotiate a better contract. And some of the success stories have encouraged others to follow suit. Kaiser officials are seeking to outsource healthcare personnel to fill in some of the positions for now, while they warned patients that some non-urgent procedures may be postponed. Negotiations with the union representatives have made no progress so far.
We're committed to paying fair wages, but at the same time, we know there's an affordability crisis in healthcare. We've got to balance that to make sure we're good stewards of our members' dollars.
It's unclear how long the negotiations could last, but America's largest healthcare workers' strike comes in a year filled with so many heated labor disputes, signaling high demand for change. It is Tianshan, CGTN, Los Angeles.
Arthur Wheaton is the Director of Labor Studies at Cornell University School of Industrial and Labor Relations. He joins me now to discuss more on what's happening with all these strikes. Arthur, let me begin with the strike at Kaiser Permanente. Some 75,000 people have walked out. What is the impact on patients, on Kaiser members, on people like my parents who are senior citizens and they have Kaiser? I'm glad they went and got their vaccine and booster shots before all this started.
It has a huge impact on the ability to get health care. It's one of the largest healthcare organizations in the U.S. They have about 13 million patients. But one thing to keep in mind is the union doesn't want to devastate the healthcare system either. So this strike is only targeted to be for 3 days. So it's not a long term. So some of the optional services can be postponed, but it's really a rallying cry saying we need more workers. The staffing levels are too low.
But Arthur, what happens if there's no progress in negotiations and this thing actually drags on, beyond the 3 days?
There's a good likelihood. They have like over 600 different locations, not just hospitals, but other locations. And they may limit some of those locations to reallocate those workers to try to make the larger hospitals or fewer hospitals be fully staffed. But you're absolutely right. It's a problem. And sometimes it's funding, sometimes it's wages, but the staffing levels are really important coming off of COVID. People have been working many, many hours for low pay for quite some time.
We've seen, as our reporter Edis Tianshan mentioned in his piece, we've seen a lot of strikes in the U.S. Writers, auto workers, now healthcare workers, all around the same time for the most part. So why are we seeing this now?
For a lot of the same reasons. So that the U.S. is coming off of COVID, having high inflation for the last few years. Just last year, it was close to 9% inflation. And most contracts only gave 2 or 3% raises, so you're falling behind. The other thing in the U.S. is we have almost record low unemployment. So the job market is definitely in the favor of unions, and there's 80% of the people support the strikers in many of these strikes or potential strikes that have been happening, that the public support is on the union side, because many of the things they are asking for are not for the highest paid. It's not a position strike. It's for the lower paid folks who could almost get more money working at McDonald's or fast food than what they're making caring for patients. So it's time for many of these employers to start paying a higher rate because of all of the inflation problems in the past.
I know you can't see the video, but we were showing images of President Joe Biden joining the picket line in Michigan last week. Really unprecedented for a sitting U.S. president. How significant was that for the union?
It's very significant. It gives them some additional legitimacy. It's not the first time President Biden has been on a picket line. He's been doing it for the last 30 or 40 years, but it's the first time a sitting U.S. president joined the picket line for the union. And it indicates that it's an issue that many working people can relate to. And politicians like it when they're on the side with 80% of the public. So it helps them in an election year. So it's good optics. It's good for public relations. But more importantly, it gives support to the workers saying, we hear you, we understand your demands. And it kind of encourages the employers, the companies, to pay a little more because they can show a lot of people are on our side.
Very quickly, Arthur, do you think the Biden administration and Congress should step in? They certainly did it with the fears of a freight railroad strike last year.
The short answer is no. And the reason why is there's 2 different labor laws. So under the Railway Labor Act for the trains, there is an explicit role for the president and for Congress to resolve it. There is no such role in the National Labor Relations Act, which is the private sector. So there's no role in government for them to do that. There is for the railways and airlines.
Understood. Thank you very much, Arthur Wheaton. Coming up, EU nations come up with a plan to tackle a refugee crisis, plus a surprising move from the Biden administration. How it will impact the U.S. southern border.
360-degree profiles of industry movers and shakers, tech mavericks, and policymakers. We drill down on their success. We ask how they set strategy and how they navigate in an increasingly competitive market. Real talk, real business. Join the conversation. Biz Talk, only on CGTN.
We are CGTN, China Global Television Network.
Southern Taiwan is cleaning up the mess left by a powerful storm. Typhoon Koinu caused a lot of damage when it made landfall Thursday as a Category 4 storm. One person is dead, more than 300 hurt. The storm is expected to weaken as it moves west towards Guangdong and Fujian provinces of China's mainland. The death toll has climbed to at least 14 following catastrophic flooding in northeast India. More than 100 people, including 23 soldiers, are missing in hard-hit state of Sikkim. The region received nearly 5 times the normal amount of rain for this time of year, causing a lake in the area to overflow. A dam also partially collapsed, and nearby roads were washed away. More rain is in the forecast in the coming days. Conflicting reports days after activists accused Iran's notorious morality police of beating a 16-year-old girl for not wearing a hijab. Armita Geravand is purportedly in a coma at a Tehran hospital under tight security. Now, Iran denies claims of abuse as well as reports her mother has been arrested. Geravand's parents had said she suffered a drop in blood pressure, lost her balance, and hit her head inside the metro car. Human rights groups say the statement was made under duress and want the entire video released. The incident, of course, comes more than a year after Mahsa Amini's death in the custody of morality police. Those protests, or her killing rather, triggered mass anti-government protests. She was detained for allegedly not wearing her hijab properly. A year later, many women are appearing in public without headscarves, defying the country's hijab laws, despite the risks of harsh punishment. A landmark deal by the European Union on how to handle the ongoing refugee crisis. The new agreement will relocate asylum seekers evenly across the EU, with frontline member states allowed to detain them for longer if needed. Alex Cartier has more from Brussels.
This deal has been 8 years in the making, 8 years of painstaking negotiation over the EU's most contentious issue. This new migration pact is designed to help the Union deal with large-scale refugee crises and was drawn up in the wake of the 2015 influx triggered by the civil wars in Libya and Syria. Under the new rules, the EU will aim to relocate at least 30,000 migrants every year, most likely moving them from frontline countries like Italy and Greece to countries which have had less of a burden to shoulder. Member states can refuse this relocation, but have to pay €20,000 per refused migrant in compensation. Germany had been blocking these proposals in the latest round of negotiations. Members of the German coalition government did not agree with new rules in the plan which allow border agencies to lock migrants up in detention centres for up to 40 weeks as they process asylum claims during crises. When Germany lifted its objection, Italy blocked the process when it disagreed with language about the NGOs which rescue migrants in the Mediterranean Sea and often bring them to Italian shores. Now, at long last, a majority of EU countries, including Italy, are now on board. And while Poland and Hungary still vehemently oppose this plan, it can now move forward through the legislative process. Now, despite this agreement, that process will still take around 2 years, including negotiations with the European Parliament and full implementation. But with migration being such an existential issue for the EU, it may well be worth the wait. Alex Cartier, CGTN, Brussels.
A major reversal for the Biden administration as it moves to stop the surge of illegal migrants at the southern border. It has waived more than 24 laws to build additional border barriers in the Rio Grande Valley. Biden previously said he would not continue construction on a wall, but Homeland Security officials apparently deemed the move necessary. Just last month, the Border Patrol agents apprehended more than 200,000 migrants. That is the highest total this year. While migration issues were also front and center as U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken arrived in Mexico City, CGTN's Alistair Barberstad reports from the Mexican capital.
U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken arrived here in Mexico City Wednesday night and held a joint meeting with the foreign ministers of Mexico, Colombia and Panama over the ongoing migration crisis that has seen 400,000 people cross the perilous Darien Gap between Colombia and Panama so far this year. It's a situation leading to big losses in trade between Mexico and the US, now mutually top trading partners, as border closures seek to fend off some of the more than 2 million undocumented migrant encounters at America's southern border seen in each of the last 2 consecutive years. Mexican businesses report losing more than $1 billion just since mid-September. However, migration is not the only topic to be discussed during Blinken's 2-day visit. America's ongoing opioid crisis, which is claiming around 100,000 lives a year, and Mexico's role in curbing the influx of narcotics into the United States will be a major topic of discussion on Thursday. Those talks also including US Homeland Security Secretary Alejandro Mayorkas and US Attorney General Merrick Garland.
En Estados Unidos sobre el papel de México.
The U.S. government's questioning of Mexico's halting or mitigating the flow of narcotics into North America has received only erratic responses from Mexico's government. But we must also see a wider debate within the U.S. around public health, regulation, and consumption of fentanyl as a major contributor to poverty and marginalization. It's a subject which needs attention on both sides of the border.
En ambos lados de la frontera, en Estados Unidos y en México.
Discussions between the two countries over the flow of illicit products over their shared border go both ways. While narcotics flow north into the US, illegal firearms flow south into Mexico, leading to a security situation officials here say contributes to more than 30,000 murders in this country a year. US-Mexico relations are currently in a difficult place, with both countries facing presidential elections next year. Some US Republican candidates have even suggested military force being used against Mexican drug cartels. However, as the two countries' top officials meet, they will hope to smooth out some of these tensions in a relationship that is increasingly interdependent. Alistair Baverstock, CGTN, Mexico City.
A new addition is coming to Africa's Lake Victoria. A bridge designed by Chinese teams is under construction. It's expected to bring a big economic boost to the region and is part of China's Belt and Road Initiative, which recently marked its 10th anniversary. Wang Tianyu has the details.
In Tanzania's Lake Victoria region, everyone is familiar with this scene. People and automobiles rolling onto a ferry, floating on a beautiful lake. Here, it is common that two close villages are separated by water.
If you don't want to make a big circle of driving around 4 to 5 hours, this is the only way that you can go from this side, Kingogo, to the other side, Busisi. And plus the waiting time, the total 5 kilometers waterway is going to take around an hour. But after the bridge is finished, it will only take 3 minutes by car.
This bridge is named after Tanzania's former president, John Magufuli. According to local residents, in 2008, at this place, he was supposed to take a boat to see his wife in Busisi, but he changed his mind due to strong winds. Later that day, the boat capsized, and lives were lost. Locals said Magufuli felt lucky and didn't want to see a similar tragedy happen in the future, so he was looking forward to seeing a bridge built on the spot. And that bridge is here. The 3.2-kilometer bridge is expected to open to traffic next year. Like many other infrastructure projects in the country, it is designed and built by Chinese companies.
On the bridge, the Chinese presence is everywhere.
However, in terms of employees, over 90% of the jobs created by the projects are filled by Tanzanians.
Chinese people are coming with these skills. So my skills and the Chinese company, when I make a plus together, I have a growth. Yeah, I have a growth to skills at the working. But before, I did not work a bridge project. They know much than me. So they teach me how to do on this bridge.
The Magufuli Bridge will be the longest bridge in East Africa, and it will change many things. Not only will it link the East and West, but it will also connect people and goods.
经济上发展带动是非常明显的。
The bridge will significantly boost the economy in surrounding areas, since it completes a national transportation corridor. Tanzania's nearby countries around Lake Victoria, Burundi, Rwanda, and Uganda are all inland nations. Their traded goods go through Tanzania's ports, so when the bridge completes the loop of overland transport, It will promote the development of the lake region and even the economy of Eastern Tanzania.
进入他们国家。
In China, there's an old saying, if you want to be wealthy, build roads first. And when it comes to the water, the bridge is the road. Wang Tianyu, CGTN, Mwanza, Tanzania.
The men's basketball final at the Hangzhou Asian Games is just hours away. The Philippines will play Team Jordan after mounting an incredible comeback against host nation China. Omar Khan reports.
It was heartbreak for host China as the Philippines, who trailed the entire game, stormed back to clinch the victory and book their ticket to the final. Led by power forward Justin Brownlee's 33 points, the Philippines are looking to secure their 5th men's basketball gold medal at an Asian Games.
It feels good right now. It just feels good to stay alive and having a chance to win the gold medal. You know, facing Jordan and RJ is gonna be extremely tough. But we still feel confident. We feel like we could do it, and you know, we're just gonna go out there and give it all we got.
China and the Philippines have seen their basketball rivalry evolve over the course of a decade. But despite the competition, there's still a lot of respect between the two sides.
We just had stuck with it. China is a great team, man. And they came out and played great, played hard. They've been showing great hospitality this whole tournament. And, you know, big up to the fans for coming out and support their team. They should be very proud of themselves and their team.
As for Jordan, who are led by Rondé Hollis Jefferson, they're keeping their focus firmly locked on the court.
20 points. You guys, first quarter, you guys was a closer game, but you guys blew it open in the second quarter, all the way down the stretch. How does it feel to be in the final now?
It feels amazing. You know, that's what we signed up for. That's what we signed up for, to be in the gold medal game. And at the end of the day, that's the ultimate goal. No matter who we play, it's basketball at the end of the day, so I'm looking forward to the challenge.
And like many of the basketball showdowns at these Asian Games, it's expected to be a sellout crowd for the gold medal game. Omar Khan, CGTN, at the Asian Games in Hangzhou.
And finally, a Norwegian author is the winner of this year's Nobel Prize in Literature. Jan Fosse has written dozens of plays, novels, short stories, children's books, poetry, and essays. He was recognized for giving a voice to the unsayable. Fosse says he's overwhelmed and grateful. The author is the 4th Norwegian to win the Nobel Prize for Literature. The remaining Nobel Prizes, Peace and Economics, will be awarded Friday and Monday. And that is The World Today. Thank you for watching. I'm Asiye Namdar in Washington.